Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Nai. Right now in Isle Deckney, it's 11:04 a.m. on Sunday, May 3rd, 2020. There's no big news to share today, but it's the start of a new week, and Isabelle hopes it lives up to each and every one of our expectations. And that's Isabelle signing off. Hooray. Ended up coming out after doing stuff yesterday, and found my mom's boyfriend was sitting at the table. Now, that's not a particularly surprising revelation. He ends up at our house quite a lot because he is, of course, my mom's boyfriend. Let's see, we've got Nook Shopping for Kiki Samba. The Happy Home Academy has said 118, 614, rank S. We have gotten congratulations and a special gift. Okay. And Sylvana, recently I spotted an envelope on the ground. I thought that there might have been a love letter inside, but it wasn't addressed to or from anyone. I peeked inside, and the envelope turned out to be empty. Still confused from Sylvana. Okay. Hi, since you happen to be here, let's give you something. I have a thing for you. I am giving you something, yes. You can have a cat nose. A cat nose, yes. Never gotten something quite like this before. Sure, it's different. Apparently they cannot wear cat noses. Do appreciate going out of your way to get anything for me, kiddo. Okay, well, you know, I tried. So he was sitting there. Mom wasn't due to be home with the rest of the family for a couple of hours. So we started talking. And the first couple of topics of conversation aren't anything important, nothing to write home about. But, let's see, what did we get? The silver HHA trophy, naturally. But we were talking, and the topics got political. Which naturally happens in this house. There are some very heated political folks in this house. They've got very, whoops, did not want to store that. I want to put that somewhere. Very heated, political commentary goes on in this house from time to time. I'm not necessarily going to bring the politics into it. Like, I'm not going to, necessarily tell you guys what the politics were. But there was an interesting conversation that came of this. If you're paying attention to politics, you may get an idea of what we're talking about. I'm going to try to keep the actual details out of it. But, as I said, there was some politicking that happened. And there were some interesting parts to the conversation that I was surprised about. So, as the conversation turned, as we discussed, excuse me, as we discussed lots and lots and lots of stuff, a little bit of philosophy came up, and I've got to tell you, this man is, you know, much better educated than I am, generally smarter than I am. Licensed therapist and psychologist, and has been for a long time. He's done a lot of different things in his life. Lived in a lot of different places. Hey, Leaf. Hey, Broccolo. Mornings are neat. Here, have a thing. You can have orange retro flooring. It is some orange retro flooring. Yep. And I got Broccolo's photo. Nice! That's one of the rarer things that you can get. So this is actually going to be a photo of Broccolo. Like, as you might expect, but that's one of those, I think, like, only best friend deals. And you get marine pop flooring. Yep, some marine pop flooring. You're welcome for the gift. Okay, I'm gonna have to hold on to a bunch of money because we're gonna be buying stocks today. But again, this man is a lot more intelligent than I am, so it is... For that reason, it is always fairly interesting to have a more in-depth conversation with him because of his intelligence. We don't always agree. In fact, we don't often agree. But our conversations get kind of further and further on into... I don't think I have the Iron Fence DIY recipe yet. But the conversation goes more and more into various directions as time goes on. So the conversation this time, he made an assertion that it would be acceptable for the political leaders of our country or any country. You know, your mileage may vary. Make your choice. But he said it would be acceptable for the politicians in this country to commit an evil act to prevent an even more evil act. Now, part of the conversation we tried to have... Oh, hello. That's right, I forgot. I did get, I've gotten some Nook Miles. Let's go see what those look like before we continue. Did redeem some Nook Miles. There we go. Okay, let's see. I did get Pick of the Bunch, because I've picked and sold a bunch of fruit. Rotten Scent for 3,000 miles. Okay. Anything else of interest? We got Nook Miles for miles. We have collected... Or have done 200 Nook Miles plus. So we got wide-ranging hobbyist. Another 1,000 points for me. Cheers. Anything else? No. Okay. I forgot about more stuff in the house I have to pull out. But yeah, so he said it would be acceptable to commit an evil act to prevent an act of even greater evil, or even just great evil. And I disagree. Or let me rephrase that. It's not necessarily that I disagree. Because you know what? It might be acceptable to commit an evil act to prevent an even greater act. But what I want to know is who decides that is acceptable. Okay, no, I can get rid of one set of pairs. That's fine. Who decides it's acceptable to commit an evil act? Is it you? Is it me? Which person decides what act is lesser and who gets to do it? I argued this point with him, that I didn't feel that it was that cut and dry, that you needed to have a little bit more to... let me go make some donations and we'll go to the shop. But you needed to have a little bit more than just, this is a lesser evil, therefore it balances out. But it was pretty much impossible for me to nail him down to that fact, which I found incredibly interesting. We talked of sliding scales. We talked of requirements and how to decide what was more or less evil than other things. We talked of in deciding, here's 4 new fish for you. Oh, well, 3 new fish. One's a double. Yep, we'll hold on to that catfish. Thank you. But we talked of allegations of crime breaking, because one of the example topics was that allegedly one of us has committed a crime. Oh, I need to go put that music away too. Let's go do that too. So allegedly I committed a crime, and we're deciding whether or not I should be investigated for it. Now again, it's alleged. So he said, the police can't investigate every crime. And I said, well, that's true. This is a fairly bad one. And he said, yes, but we have no way of knowing if it's credible or not. And I said, well, but I'm a fairly important person in the... Okay, I already had that song. But I'm a fairly important person in the community. You should probably investigate me. And so we talked to sliding scales. How important is the crime? How important is the person? How credible is the allegation? So the assertion that I was having trouble with, put in limited detail, was that, again, in order to prevent a great evil, you can commit a minor evil. Now, after a good long bit of conversation with me, after he talked about it at length, I said, okay, tell you what, I will accept that you need to commit the minor evil. I'll accept it. Because he said, because as part of his argument, as part of his statement, that committing a minor evil to commit a greater evil is a potentially acceptable action. He talked about killing Hitler. Now, he didn't go to this one fairly quickly, so we didn't have the, the very quick jump to Hitler, right? We didn't jump to Hitler particularly quickly, but we did jump to Hitler. And you know what? It's a good argument. When talking about committing a minor evil to prevent a major evil, saying that we should kill Hitler or a Hitler-like being in order to prevent a mass genocide, a pogrom, or something similar, saying kill Hitler to prevent that makes perfect sense. Commit the minor, or not minor, but commit the lesser evil action of killing another human being to prevent the major evil action of a genocide. That makes perfect sense if you think about it. So I said, okay, you know what? You have convinced me. You have convinced me that it could be justifiable to commit a minor evil to prevent a major evil. What are my prices? What are my stocks? 94 is not bad. Okay, I'll go for 94 a little bit later when I have a little bit more money and more space in my inventory. But I told him I could accept committing the minor evil to prevent the major evil. His argument was valid. Sure. Now, he was pretty satisfied with my answer, as you might expect, because I told him he was right. But then I said, okay, the problem is that we're not talking about a human. We are not talking about a person committing a minorly evil act. We're talking about a government. Because that was the topic of conversation. We were talking about governments and politics. So I said, you're not talking about letting a human do it. You're talking about letting a government do it. And that I have a problem with. And he said, why is that? And I said, well, the problem with letting a government commit a lesser evil act in order to commit a major evil act, or in order to prevent a major evil act, is that it sets a precedent that this is now acceptable and they may do it again. And he argued that that's not necessarily true, and I said, well, but wait a second. Your example of a minorly evil act to prevent a major evil act was the assassination of Hitler. That was not the last time the United States decided that assassination was or a similar action was a potential solution to a problem of that nature. Not only was that not the only time that we decided assassination was potentially allowed, but we have decided that collateral damage is also acceptable. We decided it is okay for innocent people to be killed in these actions in order to kill the greater evil. Think airstrikes in the Middle East, or, Navy SEALs actions, taking out Osama bin Laden, taking out Saddam Hussein. Collateral damage was acceptable. So now you're not just talking about killing one evil person to prevent even greater evils from being committed by them. You're talking about killing an evil person, but also potentially killing innocent people to prevent even more innocent people from being killed. In essence, what you're saying is that not only am I allowed to be a vigilante, I'm allowed to take a gun and go and hunt down a murderer and kill him myself, sans due process, because the lesser evil is preferable to the greater evil. So not only are you saying that, but you're saying that if I happen to accidentally shoot an innocent bystander, I got rid of the bigger guy. In essence, if I have a serial killer who killed 10 people, as long as I kill 9 people or less to take him out, it's fine. But again, I told him I would accept it. That I would accept the lesser evil in favor of getting rid of the greater. Now, this makes me an accomplice in the action, because I am now accepting it. I have said this is okay. That's fine, because we have stated that the greater evil must go. But again, I told him that regardless of who is committing the action, but especially a government... Bamboo, wall decoration, and Zen-style stone. I'm curious what the Zen-style stones sell for. Let's find out. Again, what I said to him is that allowing this... Ooh, we got a computer and an office chair. Nice. Those are going to be extremely expensive, and of course they come up when Sao Jones is here. Well, not Sao Jones, but Daisy May, but still. Please buy from me a fish, a fish, a fish, a fish, some fruit, some other stuff. Not the weeds, because I can actually sell those to, what's his name? To Leaf. But again, at the end of the day, what we're saying is that we're going to allow our government, we're going to allow the elected officials to make such a decision on their own. And the problem is that doing so sets precedent that's acceptable for them to do it again. We have said that we are willing to do something, potentially... How expensive? 100,000 bells. Okay. Well, that exists. I wonder if that's why this is a higher... Like, this is a, like, gilded, like, thing there. Okay, so den chair. I'll spend that for a den chair. Sure. And what about the cute clock? Cute wall-mounted clock. I'll take it. Gotta decide if I'm gonna spend 100,000 on a computer. We'll find out. The inflation's kind of insane here. But if you make the decision that it is acceptable to take this action, then there's a chance that the government will do it again in the future. But again, I had already told him that this was acceptable. That I will allow the government to take this evil action right now to stop the greater evil later. I already told him it was acceptable, and I stood by that. But I said to him, if the government is going to take this evil action, this action that I find fairly reprehensible, I don't want them to do it again. We will agree that right now it is necessary. A lesser evil to prevent a greater evil. But I don't want them to do it again. I want them to stop at one. And he said, okay, that seems acceptable. I said, okay, I'm glad that you agree. So, since you're the one saying that we should do this, and you're the one saying that it should be doable to stop it from happening again, I want you to tell me how you're going to prevent it from happening again. He said, what? And I said, yeah. What is your control? What is your plan to make sure that while we may do this evil act once, we never do it again? And he said, I'm not sure there is such a way to do it. I said, that's nonsense. Of course there's things we can do. We can pass laws. We can set precedent that this cannot be done willy-nilly. This must be done with the greatest of discretion, the greatest of thoughts behind it. That we cannot commit evil without thought and due process. We don't just let well, actually, I'm going to leave that there because I'm going to need that in a second. But we don't just condemn someone to capital punishment on a whim. A case is built against them, they are arrested, they are tried in front of a jury of their peers, and once all is done, they then sit on death row for an extended period of time, in which time there may be an appeal, or the governor may let them go. Now, does that happen often? Not really. But there is a process. Another example of a lesser evil designed to stop a greater one is war. Because he had brought up that we have rules that we make exceptions for. Thou shalt not kill is the rule. The exception is, among other things, war, capital punishment. Well, capital punishment, we don't just take that action. We make sure that many, many people are all in agreement. The lawyer who is prosecuting is in agreement. The jury is in agreement. The judge is in agreement. Many, many, many people agree that this action must be taken to prevent even worse things from happening. In war, at least in the United States, as far as I'm aware, we can't just go to war for no reason. The president's allowed to declare a war on his own, but it must be ratified later, and Congress can declare a war on their own as well, but that's a lot of people agreeing together. It's not just done. People agreed on it. So to say that, I think this black hat's going to go well with your tank top. Nice. Clips a little bit with your ears, let's be honest. But again, this level of war, these actions that we're talking about that are being taken, they're not being taken lightly. Now, the Crusades maybe a little bit less so, but we'll try to ignore that particular example. But these actions are not being taken lightly. It isn't a situation where you can just do it. People have to agree. There is a process involved to prevent it from happening. Unjustly is the word I'm going to use, but unjustly is actually not the word that applies. Because when we're saying an act of evil, evil isn't just, at least in my opinion. Now, what was interesting is he agreed that there needs to be controls in place, but no matter what I did, I could not get him to agree to any. No example I made was good enough. Oh, hey. Beta fish. That's a new one. Now, it's hard to really talk too much about where this conversation went because I don't really want to get into the actual politics of it and drag the channel into that. But part of it was that we were talking about a group of people in politics, be it one party or the governors or the Senate, just any group of people that, again, are a group. That was the potential people that would be committing the act of evil in question. And because he couldn't figure out a plan to prevent the evil act from being taken a second time. What's up, Peanut? There are reactions for everything, so now we can use Sleepy. Totally great. Someone says you do that, and they'll know you've been up all night. Probs dancing on your bed. I have learned Sleepy. Yep, I use that reaction all the time in real life. Here, have a thing. Let's see, what do you get? I'm gonna give you a beak. It's a beak. I thought you'd rock it, yes. Okay. So I said, okay. Let's take our example group. Let's take Congress. In order to approve this act of evil being taken, I said 75% of Congress must agree to take the action. Because I reasoned, if you can get 75% of the people in Congress to agree, and that's a lot of people, if you can get that many people to agree this action should be taken, it's probably necessary. Oops. Didn't know I had that equipped. That's probably necessary. And he said, there's no way I can agree to that. And I said, no. And he said, no. Because if 75% of people in Congress agree to take this action, those people will never be elected again. They'll never be trusted again. I said, I know. That's the point. You probably should not be trusted again or elected again if you believe that you should take an evil action. It might be necessary, but I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree to it. I don't have to say it's okay. Which is kind of the point I was making to him. This is an evil act. You don't get to justify it. You don't get to say that the ends justify the means. If you're committing evil, you are committing evil. That's the long and short of it. It may be necessary, and here's the important part. It may be necessary to commit that evil act, and I will accept that, and I will accept that argument, and we will move on. But I'm not going to allow you to get away with it unscathed. You may be murdering a murderer. That may be what you're doing, and you're making that decision. And your decision is to kill them in order to prevent them from doing terrible things in the future. Cool, fine, whatever. I'll agree with you on that. But when you murder a murderer, you are, at the end of the day, still a murderer. That you did make the choice to murder. That is what you've become. Is it not okay for me to treat you like one? Now, it's a really hard argument. It really is. A lot of people don't like that argument. And I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of that argument either. But I think it is a fairly valid one. But he said, you know, I can't allow 75%. You know, I can't allow that requirement. I said, okay. How about 51%? Just agree. Just make more than half of your fellows, half of your compatriots agree that this was required. Well, damn. There's a butterfly over there I don't think we have yet either, so let's go ahead and drop this and see if we can go find it. Oh, no, that's a greatest butterfly. We have that one already. Again, just get 50% of your fellows to agree that this was necessary. 51% total. And okay, you're there. Couldn't get him to agree to that either. At the end of the argument, he was saying that, or not even an argument. This was a debate. It really was. Don't think of it otherwise. You know, we were being respectful to each other. We were not, you know, angry with each other. This was just a conversation that was going on. But at the end of the conversation, and this conversation, you know, went all over the place. The end of the conversation was quite interesting because he was starting to turn on his side. That, you know, maybe it wasn't quite so easy to just commit this action. He was still resolved that the action should still be taken. He was still resolved that the evil should be committed to prevent the greater evil. But he understood why I was talking about how... where my concern was coming from, that he should not be so cavalier about committing the evil act. He started to understand why I was concerned about it being done, that it was very likely that once it was done once, it would be done again, and I don't want it to be done again. And he started to argue that if I started to codify it, that if I started to make it legal to commit the legal act, that we would do it more often. And I said, yes, I know. I didn't want to codify it. You told me I needed to. I didn't want this thing to become something that we could do on the regular. I wanted it to be something that was hard to do, or that you could never do again. But apparently that was a little bit too tough to agree to. We're going to put Broccolo's picture up somewhere. It was definitely an interesting conversation. And again, we spread far and wide. Part of the topic's conversation, they asked why if we were to allow this to occur, I felt the need that we had to put restrictions in place. Why I felt that we needed to not do this. And I said, because I don't want my government to do that. I said, my government should exemplify the ideals that I have. If I don't think we should kill people, then I want my government to also feel that way. I want that to be part and parcel with how my government works. Now, naturally, this is idealistic, and ideals and reality do not really coincide very well. They don't really exist very well next to each other. I very much understand that. But that's still what I do want. I do want my government to be, to live by my ideals and act accordingly. Now, it's very hard because my ideals might not necessarily be your ideals. In fact, they probably aren't. What was interesting about that is that when this topic came up, the subject of ideals, instead of agreeing that ideals could be good, not necessarily my ideals, just ideals as a general statement, my mom brought up that there was a person who worked off of justice and ideals both. And she brought up Javert from Les Miserables. Thought this was an interesting person for her to bring up. I had misremembered some of the topics of Les Mis, but we were talking about a police officer who hunted down a convict, a man who was convicted of a crime that he did commit. Keep in mind, Jean Valjean did commit the crime in question. But the crime in question was not a terrible one. Jean Valjean committed the crime of stealing bread. Now, he was stealing bread to feed a family, to feed a starving child. For such a sentence, Jean Valjean was sentenced to hold on. Oh, come on. Oh, hold on. So, well, this is actually interesting. I remember, actually, I'm looking it up. I remembered right. They remembered wrong. So Jean Valjean was originally imprisoned for 5 years for stealing a loaf of bread, and that's a very long time for stealing. He attempted to escape 6 times. And each time he attempted to escape, an extra 2 years, his sentence was lengthened by 3 years. Tried to escape 4 times, sorry. So 3 years for trying to escape 4 times, an extra 2 years for once resisting recapture during his second escape. 19 total years in prison. At the end of this time, he's released with a paper saying he's an ex-convict. Now, one thing he does immediately after being released, he tries to steal again. He tries to steal from a priest, but is caught. But the priest, hearing why he's trying to steal, then gives him the items he's trying to steal, plus a little bit extra to sell, so he can move on. Now, Javert decides that Jean Valjean is a convict. He's going to do it again, so he kind of follows up on him. Now, the point they were making, and I can't wait to go back to them to go, hey, by the way, yes, he was released, because they said that Jean Valjean, maybe it's the other way around. I can't remember who said what. Oh yeah, I said he tried to escape from prison, and he had multiple times done so. And they said, no, he wasn't. He was released. No, he tried to escape from prison. So the point is that Jean Valjean is a multi-time convict. He has committed multiple crimes, not just one. But what they said is that Jean Valjean's good actions, the good things he does, taking care of this little girl, being a good mayor, saving multiple people's lives, should be taken into account. Which I agreed, yes, but that does not absolve him from his original crimes. And I do believe that. Being good later on is great, but it doesn't absolve you. It doesn't exempt you from your previous crimes. You do still have to face up for them. And then they said, well, what about parole? I said, yes, parole is fine. Good behavior is great. But good behavior after you escape from prison should not absolve you from escaping in the first place. The evil acts still sit in, even if good acts come in afterwards. You do have to take them into that account. But they were trying to press that Javert's his ideals, the ideals combined with his with justice, end up making him go a little insane once he realized he couldn't reconcile that with reality. And I said yes. First of all, this is a work of fiction. But even if it isn't a work of fiction, you're talking about potentially one good example, but we have many examples where that's not the case. So building your case off of one example isn't quite a good way to go. And then also, you're talking again about, about a book. It's a constructed thing. We have constructed events that happen that way. Saying that this book, this setup that we have in the book, should prevent you from wanting to put justice and ideals together does not necessarily flow. We can have our justice and our ideals. We just have to do it a certain way and, set it up a certain way. Is that necessarily possible? No, not necessarily. But that's still what I would want in my government. That's still what I would want in my elected officials. I want them to follow my ideals. I want them to exemplify that. If I want justice in my government, I want my government to act in a way that promotes justice. Now the problem is justice is very hard to define. It doesn't work the same way for everybody. Those are absolutely legitimate statements completely. They tend to make it very. Oh, damn! I was paying more attention to Bruce over here. But justice is certainly hard to define. I am calling myself Sunflower. Look, you can absolutely call me Sunflower. Oh, God. No, he's saying Chew. That's why you should never give your villagers catchphrases, because it spreads like wildfire. It ended up being a very interesting conversation, and while we didn't necessarily walk away with anybody being convinced of the other person's position, it was very thought-provoking. And it's been a good long time since I had a conversation that was like that. A lot of people in my family do get, as I said, rather intensely political. They love to have their political conversations, and they love to go on at length about them. There are actually certain members of my family that if you get them together, the amount of politicking becomes really intense, but they're all in the same party, so it becomes a significant level of bile towards the other party, and that's something that I'm not a particularly big fan of. Hi, Tom Nook. I have taken part in Nature Day. Yep, I like jumping to the action. He's a special present for me. Okay. Perfect for any gardener. It's a do-it-yourself recipe for crafting your very own hedges. Oh, okay. Cool. I like the idea of that. Okay, neat. I am here to grab a May Day ticket. Do you know what we're celebrating on May Day? Not really. May Day is a day when we express our gratitude to those who work hard. Although I suppose even my May Day event is more about play than work, my getaway package idea started as a way for folks to escape and enjoy carefree lives in deserted islands. Sure, you've been enjoying at least the island life here as well. However, I can't help but think about all the support I've gotten from our wonderful island residents. It can truly be said that a lot of hard work has gone into make this island great. Yeah, all mine. As a thank you, Nook Inc. has created a special tour for island residents. Called the May Day Tour. Sure, everyone will enjoy the recreational activities I've planned. So take this opportunity to hop on a plane, take a trip, and unwind after all your hard work. I've left a May Day ticket for you at the airport counter. May 7th is the last day you can use it, so take flight whenever you like before the event ends. I think that's everything I wanted to tell you. Nope, I'm good. Until then, have a good time on my May Day tour. Okay. Now, what do I have to do to craft that do-it-yourself recipe for a hedge? I need clumps of weeds. Okay, so I kind of need weeds to become a thing. Look, I mean, we can get weeds on island tours, I suppose. So I can get weeds. It was definitely an interesting conversation, and the conversation lasted for a while. Like, we were talking for 2 or 3 hours about all of this over, dinner and stuff like that. We did bring up a number of kind of interesting topics as well. Not the least of which we were discussing kind of the nature of people. So that some people are very easily swayed. Some people are very easily convinced by others. That they would not necessarily stand true in their convictions. That looks like a butterfly I don't have yet. Oh, but I don't have a... Damn. Okay. But people would not necessarily stand true in the face of their convictions if a bunch of other people challenged them on it. Or if someone in a position of authority challenged them on it. And that does end up bringing up, you know... hi, I have a bluegill. That does end up bringing up kind of just interesting questions of, you know, how do you necessarily stand by your convictions? There was a study done, the Stanley Milgram obedience experiment. Many of you probably know about this one already. It's an interesting experiment. It's kind of sad when you think about it. When you think about what this experiment says about human nature. Stanley Milgram heard in the I think it was what, in the Nuremberg trials. That a lot of Nazis did terrible things to people in concentration camps because their superiors told them to. And he was kind of curious how likely that would be. Like, how likely is it that you would do something terrible to another person, or just something terrible in general, because someone in a authority position said it was okay, or just told you to do it in the first place. Maybe they didn't say it was okay, maybe they just said do it. So he set up an experiment where people were watching other people while managers were watching them. The manager said every time I'm going to give orders. I think it was like, I'm going to give orders to the people in the room through the window. If they don't do what I tell them to do, press this button, it will deliver an electric shock. And people followed along because this made a certain amount of sense. Well, they continued, and people continued to disobey, so the manager said shock them harder, and people did. And the disobedience continued, and they said shock them harder, and at this point, the new shock would potentially be lethal. And I believe only about 30% of the people, and I have to actually go look it up. Luckily, I happen to have it pulled up here. Yeah, so only 35% of the people who were involved in this experiment said no when they were told to give the potentially lethal shock. Let's do the Mayday ticket. Have to go empty-handed. Okay. Okay, let's do it. This wasn't just a one-time thing. He did it 18 times. The results were fairly similar each time. And people obeyed. Okay, this tour is different than most. Whole island's a giant maze. Nothing in aerial view wouldn't help, but that's not why we're here. This is a navigation tour, you copy? The point is to find your way through. You've stowed your gear back at the airport counter, so you'll start this mission with empty wings or hands. We big shot bird types rely on our inner radar to get us around. It's a pretty nifty trick. But you ground-bound goslings will have to zero in on whatever you can find in the maze to reach your target. If you get stuck or grounded or lost in a fog bank or whatever, just hail the rescue service on your phone. Our whiskered allies will reset things so you can refuel, regroup, and restart the maze. And if you ever feel like you need a little extra intel, I might have a hint or two for you. Time to get going right about November Oscar Whisker. Good luck and wheels up. Okay, so we have a maze. You're going to start me with a tool. I'm assuming it's going to be a shovel. Interesting. That's not what I was expecting. So we have a shovel to begin with. Oh, there's a... I didn't realize there's a bush right here. Okay. So we got a bush. Shovel plus orange. Oh, no. Try again. Shovel plus orange means I can uproot a tree. But I'm forced to continue in this direction. I have to go up. Now, I could uproot that, but I don't have another orange. Let's continue this way. I got a stick. Okay. So, this rock is interesting. So, this rock, I could break if I had an orange. And this gives me a new tool. So what do I have now? So I have an orange and I have an axe. Okay, I have an orange and an axe. So now I can actually chop down a tree. Which, honestly, I should probably chop down this one, right? Oh, okay. That axe did not last all that long. Okay, so now I have 2 oranges and a shovel. Okay, where can I go now? What does that open for me? Well, I can get wood. I see Rover. Pretty sure that's Rover. Okay. Orange plus shovel breaks rock. Which gets me 2 do-it-yourself recipes. Which is interesting, but not incredibly useful. Now I can actually make a thing, but I don't really need that thing. Okay, so now I have access to these 2 oranges. So I can't go either of those directions. So what I want to do is I want to go... Can I hop over this, please? Thank you. So basically, I need 3 oranges. So what I need... So I have 2. I know there's 1 more orange. I need an axe. Okay, so let's go build an axe. They did give me enough ingredients to build an axe. Now what I don't have an iron nugget. Okay. Now what I don't understand, however, the next step is interesting. Because in order to do the next step, I would need an orange. Is this the... Okay, I think I know what they want. They want me to build a sharp axe to get through this next section. Okay. I get you. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I got you. So they want me to use what I have now gotten and craft a actual axe. Okay. And this is a neat little thing. I actually like it. Right, I keep on forgetting. I have to go all the way around when I do this. So I want me to go all the way around, which then allows me to chop this down. And I want to hold on to as many oranges as I can in order to get those bell tickets that they're showing off. So this is the question is, do you know how to rotate on a stump? Oh, we get some free bells. Oh, I need to get back quickly, because... Hey, Rover. You made it to the goal. Huh? Hey, we met before. You seem kind of familiar, but... Sorry. Been traveling to a lot of different islands lately, and I'm pretty bad with names and faces. This is my first time on this island. It's a pretty weird island, isn't it? What brings you here, anyways? Tom Nook sent me. You know Tom Nook. He's the reason I'm here, too. I mean, I'm here because he invited me. He told me he put together a very interesting attraction on this island, and I should check it out. But I didn't expect to find a maze. What a surprise. So if you know Tom Nook, does that mean you live in the same island as he does? It sure does. Neat. I hear Nook's been putting a ton of work into that place. What was it called again? Oh yeah, Isle Deckney, right? Ding ding ding, we have a winner. I knew it. Hey, you're pretty interesting, you know? If all you island folk are this much fun, I bet Isle Deckney's great. You got a name? Nye, huh? Great name, great name. I'm glad we met, Nye. I want to commemorate this occasion by giving you a gift. It's so great to meet you. I mean, what are the odds? I really didn't expect to have this much fun here. One thing's for sure, I'm hoping fate will bring us together again sometime. See you later. Man, I miss Rover. He's been in a lot of different Animal Crossings. He was usually at the start of every Animal Crossing. I'm actually... I was amazed when he wasn't at the start of this one. Wow, you have to actually get through without using the last orange in order to get all of those. Where was a time that I could have gotten through something without using an orange? Unless there's another orange all the way over on the right-hand side. Is there like one last orange over here? Nope. No, there sure ain't. What did he give us? Rover's briefcase. Ah, cool. Yeah, I guess we're leaving without those, because I don't have any way to get through 3 different rocks. Did I sort through the entire maze? I did. Way to sort through, you'll have to let Old Nook know. With the air brake on, seems you have something on you these pilot's eyes have never seen before. You got it from someone who just happened to be hovering around this island. Well then, Dodo Airlines will proudly deliver your prize to your home. One dilly of a Mayday tour, huh? Squawk the word and we'll wing you back to your home hangar. And if you're stuck grounded, lost in the fog, yeah. No, I'm done. Let's go. Time to head home. Okay, so all that stuff is going to be sent. Well, that was an interesting little diversion. Okay, y'all. That's going to be about it for me. I waxed on about philosophy way too long. I am kind of curious what you guys happen to think about that whole thing. Is it justifiable? First and foremost, you know, at the outset, is it justifiable to commit an act of evil? Let's see, it's exactly 12 o'clock. Has she vanished? Take a quick look around. But is it justifiable to commit an act of evil to prevent an act of greater evil? Now, we don't have to go too deep into specifics, you know. But the question is that justifiable? And then, if it is, should limits be put on it? And if they are, what limit should they be? And then, if it's your government committing these acts of evil, does that change anything? Does that make you think twice? Does that make you adjust your thoughts? If it's, you know, not just a random person, but actually your government making those actions. It shouldn't necessarily do so, so don't take this as me saying that, you know, it should be a thing. I think I already have antique boots. We'll grab some more just in case. But that's going to be about it for me, folks. I'm just going to buy some clothing, as usual. If you guys have comments, please leave them in the comment section. I do read every single last one of them, and I appreciate them. If you liked this video, please hit that like button, because it does help me out. It makes it more likely that more people will get to see my content, which is also greatly appreciated. Do I have chain pants? I'm not sure if I have chain pants. If you would like to see more of this type of content, hitting that subscribe button is the best possible thing you can do. I upload at least one video a day, sometimes more. And then if you'd like to see me live, every Tuesday and Thursday I do stream. 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I don't think I have this blue one. I would love to see you guys at the stream. And keep an eye out on either Discord or via YouTube announcement for when I stream kind of willy-nilly. Every so often I get the need to do a game or so, and I might actually stream it as opposed to just recording it offline. Actually, more likely to do so lately than I used to be. But that is about the long and short of it for me, guys. Thank you for watching. I look forward to hearing back from you, and I will see you all next time.